Welcome again, all of you, to another conversation today with Don Weatherbee, the CEO of Regenx. Regenx has been a major effort doing precious metals and the effort of changing the legacy in this matter. So they're doing a lot of pilot projects, and from then they created a huge operation and large scale, which they have a big factory in Greeneville, Tennessee. So, Don, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure, pleasure. So, Don, just for the sake of the audience, could you tell a bit about yourself? How did you started all this journey, and what was your actual purpose on creating all this journey for you and also for the society?
Sure. I graduated business school with an accounting degree, and with that, kind of fell into the mining industry and started in coal, and then went into oil sands up in northern Alberta. And after that, had an opportunity to join Regenx, and Regenx was when I joined, we were starting to be we were an exploration company, and sort of we're looking around saying exploration isn't necessarily the best way to go forward. And so we were starting to look at what else could we do, and sort of looked at technology, and first started in a material processing technology that was aimed in the gold mining industry to sort of recover tailings, gold from old tailings. As we were developing that technology, we got invitations to look at seeing how we could modify our technology to first into e-waste, and then into catalytic converters. We had a major player in the catalytic converter market in the US come to us and say, there's an underserved market in the diesel catalytic converters. Can your process work for that? And so we started basically from zero research and started down that path in 2020 to see how we could recover platinum and palladium from old diesel catalytic converters.
Nice journey, let's just say. So, what was your next step during this journey? I mean, since you got into there, what got into your next step?
So what had to do is we had to go through all the processes. We had to do lab scale. Would our would our technology work? Would our chemistry work? So we had to do all the laboratory testing. Then we stepped it up to do a pilot plant, which then we moved that pilot plant from our base operations in Vancouver down to Tennessee. And we moved down to Tennessee because that's where our partner, Davis Recycling, has their base of operations. So we wanted to be closer to the supply. So did a lot of work with the pilot plant. And from that pilot plant, we moved forward with the commercial scale operations. And we've built the commercial scale with a modular design concept in mind. So we brought module 1 online, began building and commissioning it in 2023, and it's come in line in 2024 here. And so its nameplate scheduled to be able to process about 5,000 pounds a day when
Nice.
it's fully operational.
It's huge volume. So, what was your main difficulties in getting to this point? I would say.
Yeah, so what we like to talk about is that our technology is really two tracks. We have a chemical track that we have to make sure we can extract the precious metals from the material, but we also have a physics track that you're constantly converting from different states the material. You take a powderized version to start, you mix it into a leach, so then it becomes a slurry. Well, then you have to separate out the slurry back to being just the liquid. Then you have to have your precious metals drop out of the liquid form. So every time you're moving different material types, that's a complex operation between pumping and pipes and all that. And the hardest parts are stuff that happens on small scale. You can't replicate in the large scale. Um, Pumping is a great example. Is that on a small scale, you can move almost any material you want with a pump because you can't scale them down as small as what your scale is. And as it moves up, that's when you start understanding how you have to deal with the efficiencies of things like that. So a lot of it had to be learning on the fly because it's a one of a kind, first of its kind type technology, and you're learning your lessons as you move along. You have to you can only learn them by doing. So
Yeah.
in a lot of our challenges is that there's no roadmap to follow. You have to do and learn as you're doing.
I admire that. I admire that because in the end, it's a path that I actually always admire very much because non-existent to create it and learn as we go. I think it's very admirable and also challenging at the same time. But it's something that in the future you say, I did what I had to do to get here, and this is the right path. So in the end, it's about a learning process, and it's a learning process also for many people because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of technologies out there, and people just don't want to take that serious step in because they are afraid of getting to go on those decisions because it's unique and sometimes not sometimes, I mean all the time, when that happened, it's there's something that is not shown. So I always say to people, push yourself, go further, and in the end you find the result. If you don't go further, you won't find the result because you have not done it. You need to experiment to get to the next step. That's how I always say. So I really admire that step you did, especially on that sector, because I would believe that because it's unique technology, you maybe had your difficulties in documentations or permits or things like that. Can you tell a bit about that?
We did have some challenges with permits early on, and a lot of it has to do with the peoples that you're dealing with don't understand what you're doing, and
Yeah,
so they don't have a box that they can put you in, and you're not exactly what they're thinking. So fear drives a lot of what the permitting is. In that um, we don't understand what it is, so we're not going to agree, and so it's a lot of education. It's a lot of time spent on having people understand exactly what it is you're doing and how it affects different things, so that they'll become at ease with it. Um, yeah, because you're not just cookie cutter, um, being able to
exactly.
explain what you're doing.
So I would believe it was really a challenge when you come up, for example, with government institutions to explain what you guys do, because of not having awareness or knowledge in what you do. They might even think there was something maybe dangerous or something, and which wasn't. So this is, I think, it's the criteria where you find yourself. Okay, so there's a learning process to everyone. So I think today's show, I think it's going to be a good remark for everyone to understand that there's always a challenge, but you need to do it in order to get, to show it, to do it yourself, and to fulfill, the actual goal and result.
Yeah, our biggest secret to success a lot of times is was bringing people on site to walk them through exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
When they see it, it's a lot easier to understand. Um, Something theoretical just on paper um, is very hard for them to break through their barriers.
What was your biggest challenge when you start taughting people what you guys do? I mean, what was the actual challenge when doing this kind of training with people?
Uh, the challenge is just getting an understanding of the process, and that what would seem to be complicated is actually simple when you boil it down. But when you're looking at chemistry and processes, it makes it a lot more complex than it actually is in reality. And
Sure.
so it was, and that's where I talk about walking people through, is that when you can show the transitions, when you can show this is where this happens, This is it. It's in an enclosed environment. This is where this happens. So it allows them to get a better feel for what the true risks and what the true opportunity is.
During this process of learning, I would believe then you start the operation itself. What was your challenge? I believe you are in Tennessee. You set up a factory. So, what was all this process, and what did you engage of? If you could go a bit on detail.
Sure. So what we've had, where the biggest challenges we've had is equipment selection. Again, because of it being a one of kind, we talked to experts, we talked to industry, and we used their advice, but they hadn't seen what we were using it for. And we were ramping up, we were doing everything good, and then we had a major failure in our reactor. And it's a lot to do with the abrasion of the material, and nobody counted for how much abrasion this material was. So we were using glass-lined reactors in the process because they were the best quality, the best piece. But the glass was just being worn off our reactor in a really, really fast time. So we've had to pivot and change our reactor style to a different piece. And so what it is, our biggest challenges has always been, well, your first time doing these things, and you believe in what the people are telling you, and then you implement it in your system and understand, that's not exactly the same result that we were expecting. So
Yeah, it's challenging when you try to build something with equipment that you cannot produce to make it all work and connect it all together. So during the actual, all engineering process, let's just say, how long did it took for you guys to put it all together?
So we started the lab scale in 2020. And so we were about a 4-year process of going from zero to actually running material through our process and getting saleable product at the back end. So for the scale of stuff we're looking at, it's actually incredibly fast development curve.
So, I mean, you talked about that you can process 5,000 pounds per day of material. Where does this material come from? Is it all from US, or you have to also have some kind of logistic operation to bring it to your factory?
So right now, all of our material is sourced in the US. Our partner, Davis Recycling, is a major player on the Eastern Seaboard in the catalytic converter market. And so he is out getting us our product to process. And 5,000 pounds sounds like a lot, but relatively in the grand scheme of thing, it's small. We project our plant is going to scale up in the next little while to about 20,000 pounds a day.
Nice, nice. So, is your major market on US? So you plan to get international to other countries, other continents?
Our starting point's US, but we believe this is we know it's a global problem, and we believe we have a solution that can be implemented globally. Again, we're always prudent in what we're doing. We're going to walk before we run. So we're going to get ourselves set up and profitable in the US, and then look potentially another location in the US, and then global. I mean, the biggest factor on doing this successfully is transportation. And so you're going to want to minimize how far the converters have to come in order to reduce those transportation costs.
So, Don, how did you got here? I mean, what was the idea when you started this? You had already this idea for many years before you started the project, or it was just something that came up after you recently see climate events or something like similar?
So it was more of something that came up. It was more that we started down what we Regenx looked at. What could we do in a sustainable technology basis in an area that we were used to, and that was in the mining industry. Um, what we saw is that where people keep coming to us was more from what's called the urban mining sector. Is how do you renew items that are already in the system? How do you make a better use of those at the end of life? And so what we had was Davis Recycling said that these diesel catalytic converters right now don't have a home. Where the traditional recycling industry, the smelters, really like to have gasoline. They don't like the diesels. And the diesels, why they don't like them is that gasolines, the honeycomb structure of them, is made of more of a ceramics type. The diesels, they have to be composed of silicon carbide because diesel engines run a lot hotter. And that silicon carbide structure creates inefficiencies in smelter furnaces. So they were sort of saying, we don't like this material. So it was off to the side and it wasn't being utilized. And so that's what the niche was for us, is that we saw something that was underserved, that has value, that could be and brought back into the system.
Nice. So nice trajectory. So when you start all this, you studied by yourself when it was the very beginning, or you already had a team, co-working and studying how to set it up?
Regenx has a long history. It was an operating company. It was an exploration company. So we already had the infrastructure of an operating company. That combined with Davis, who's an existing player, together we had all the base underlying pieces needed to move it forward. All we needed to do was add to our research group to sort of say, how do we move from concept to execution? And so we've added pieces as we went along that said, okay, here's the research side. How do we do the execution side? And been moving forward along those trajectories.
So you had always clear what will be the steps? During these steps, of course, it's a study process. What was your main challenges from idea to creation? We talked a bit about this before, just on further process, but from early beginning, that's what I meant.
Early beginning was whether it could work. Um, the pieces were there to say that, can this actually happen? So a lot of the research to do of how to make it work, and how to make it work at a level that isn't just in the lab, because a lot of stuff works in a lab, and then you have to figure out how to transfer, how to scale. And because what are little inefficiencies in the lab that don't cause issues are big inefficiencies when you're at scale. And so you've got to make sure you understand all the nuances of the pieces, so that when it's at commercial scale, those little inefficiencies don't drive you into an unprofitable, unsustainable level.
Absolutely, absolutely. So during this, you started a factory in Tennessee. How do you come up to coming from Canada, I believe, to Tennessee? Why not in Canada? I mean, it's like major question.
So the biggest reason we moved down to Tennessee is our partner Davis, and that's where they're located.
Okay.
Tennessee is also sort of a central hub to a lot of the eastern seaboard of the U.S., which is a large concentration of materials. Just as an example, the first FedEx distribution hub was in Tennessee. So they would fly all their stuff into Tennessee before they sent it back out, type thing. So it's centrally located on major routes, major areas, that makes it the transportation logistics quite favorable.
or optimize. Absolutely. So, if you could tell us now a bit about Dawn on the early stage. I mean, how was your life? For example, from college on, and what did it made you go to this specific sector?
So, like I said, I graduated with an accounting degree and joined a coal mining company. And with the coal mining company, got involved in a lot more items like budgeting and internal audit and site leadership. And what it drew is what I always enjoyed in I was always interested in business as a piece. And what I found was accounting is one of the great places to enter business because with accounting and the numbers, you touch all facets of a business. You have to understand all the pieces and the nuances of a business to be able to understand and translate what the numbers mean to other people. And so you become a conduit between operations and different voices of understanding how a business works and what the numbers mean. And so I found it a great entry level into being part of a business. And so I've always had a lot more operational focus than just a numbers focus. Uh, I'm a numbers guy at heart, but I've always been more of how to use the numbers more so than just collecting them. And so that's been a hallmark of my career of different places is how do we move forward with a business and make people understand what they're how to make better decisions based on better data. And so did that in coal mining, did that with a contract miner in the oil sands, which when I started with them, they were doing $24 million in revenue, and within 10 years, we were doing 400 million. So rapid growth, and you can only do that rapid growth if you can put in place systems and processes to be able to manage, because it's really easy to manage a group with the small revenue. But when you explode in that, you have to start pushing down the decision-making process to a lot more different layers. So those are a lot of the things that interested me and pushed me forward, was maximizing how to grow, how to be a better business.
Absolutely, absolutely admirable. There's a lot of good remarks, especially for people and entrepreneurs that should actually listen what you just said. And on top of that, I just wanted to add the importance of the actual flow chart. So when you manage a team, as you just said, of 10, 20, 50 people, it's not that hard, even if you don't have horizontal people. But when you manage a team for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, you have to have the importance of horizontal people. So, and that is a big remark that I would like to say for all major companies. All major companies do flow chart, but they don't do the back down. The back down is very important to have a remark for divisions. And sometimes the division are not well structured, and then you come up sometimes with not so optimum results because the information doesn't flow in the proper system, and you just said, because these systems of communication, the systems of transition itself, because it's a big transition as the teams are growing, there has to be a transition and communication and systems accordingly. So if this does not go by pair or horizontal, there's what it calls a slash. So it's a big remark that I just wanted to emphasize, and I really admire and congratulate you for what you just said, because it's really the most challenging, I would say, in companies from small to big. So big remark for that that you just did. So after that, when you started the factory from Tennessee, what was your main skill after that? You just wanted to, as you just said, go baby steps and just focus on U.S. market, or you already had in place transitions, logistics to start up in other continents, for example, like Africa or Asia?
We don't have it ready yet. We're starting the the prep work on that. Our first steps were always just, we had to prove what we could do. And so nobody takes, to be
For
honest, no,
granted.
yeah,
Yeah.
nobody takes seriously new technologies until they're working, because everybody's heard, well, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna do this, and they peter out, they do this. So our focus has always been, we'll have our first one, we need to develop it, get it working, have it as a base, have it as a template. Then with once you have that understanding, you've got something you can show people, um, then it becomes a lot easier to expand and move forward, because you've got proof of concept, proof of ability, and then you've got a lot more people who are willing to partner with you once you've proven what you can do. And so that's the part where we're sitting at right now. We're in the proving stage, and once we have that completely done, we will then move to the next stage of growth.
Very nice. So from this stage, when is Regenx be prepared to go open market? Let's just say to normal operation.
So we're, like I said, we had some equipment issues, so we're redoing what our pieces are. So we've had a little bit of a step back before we can move forward. Now we're getting that all into place to do that. So what we look at is 2025 is going to be a prove it type period, where we will operate efficiently, profitable, and have that as our calling card. Then that allows us to look at saying how fast, where all those pieces on expansion.
Do you have a niche marketplace that you like to share for anyone that hears the episode to know how to reach you and to get to know you more? Let's just say.
So two parts on that. Most of our data and contact are under our website, which is Regenx Tech, REGENX.TECH. And so that has a lot of the information and additional information on us. But we're also a publicly traded company. So we're traded in Canada under the symbol RGX, in the US on RGXTF. So if people are interested in us, you're able to invest into us and help us grow.
Are you open for investors at this stage, or you already had to close up your bidding?
We're always open to the right partnership. So
Okay.
we do look at if somebody has something they want to do, we look at doing that. But what I was talking on the investment side is for the retail guy with the small dollars, is a chance to get involved in us. We're a penny stock at this moment, but we believe in our growth potential.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything has to be a start. That's all I would say. If you don't start it, you'll never know, or you'll never grow. And in the end, it's about, oh, it's very tough to start an operation. Yeah, but you need to start. If you don't start, you don't have even that stage. So that this is another step that I'm trying to show to most people that will hear this episode, that you should not be afraid when you trust yourself and you have confidence in what you do to make that step forward. It's very important to do that, not only for yourself, but then you also show to markets, companies, people, and even to yourself that it's possible to do whatever you want to design. It's just a matter, you need to put your heart, your knowledge, and of course the will to move forward in it. It's the most important thing. It's about believing. Yeah, many people believe But the important thing is take that next step, as you just did. It's yeah,
And I'll put one more piece on that. It's
yeah,
also understanding that no development, no growth is a straight line. There will be setbacks, there will be challenges, there will be pieces where you have to readjust and move forward. Um, it's about maintaining your desire, your enthusiasm to keep it pushing forward, especially when you know you have the right thing, um, and not letting momentarily setbacks derail where you're heading.
absolutely, absolutely. So, like I said, no road is easy. You just need to go on the road and keep on going to fulfill that exact path, as I would say. So, regarding, okay, we talked about your operations, the detail of how it started, the whole thing. So, what will be your concept regarding about all your experience, because it's a brand new technology in the market, no one has it, unique. So, what would be your advice for, according to your experience in this case, to governmental institutions and to other companies that do, inspection on technology and things like this?
So, on the government side, what we've noticed is that there's a lot of support for things that are working, and the support for things that are new is harder to get. They always want you to be at the proven stage before they help. And if governments really want to make a change, they're going to have to take a bigger risk profile. They're going to have to try to support some of the earlier stage items, because new ideas don't come from what's already proven. New ideas, change comes from stuff that has to be proven. And if a government's going to want to support or push those forward, there has to be increased support on more of a risk uh, basis. And people who are already making money don't necessarily need the support. Ones that are in the development curve are the ones where you can get the biggest bang for the buck of making change in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is a remark. So, for everyone that listens, I think a change is always good. It's always positive, and it should be open. It should be open because you cannot develop new things if you don't have help. It's going to be, let's just say, not impossible, but much harder. And I think in every way, everyone should have open mind to new technologies. Doesn't matter which sector they are, and to have that step further. To listen and to have the proper mechanisms build up for the early stages technologies. Because this is just one example. I've been facing also this in many other sectors, especially even in IT. We also had the technology regarding encryption that to be painted it, we took a step of almost 10 months to do it, because it's like same mechanisms. I think it's something that all governments should be aware that new technologies are always good to society. You just need to investigate to know what they do and then make a proper decision, of course. But the mechanism should be there, to because if the people find this difficulty putting all their effort and idea into process, of course it's much harder to move it forward. So perseverance. So Don, talk us about your perseverance during all this step.
Well, perseverance is the key on where we've been for the last 4 years. Like I've mentioned a bunch of times, we've had major highs where we think everything's ready to just take off, and only to be crashing down with a equipment failure. Um, but we believe in what we're doing and where we're heading, and we just know that it's all about fine tuning and just tweaking what we have to make the success where it's going to be. It's not a matter of if for us, it's a matter of when. and it's just a matter of getting to the when.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what would be your advice from your experience, your perspective, to many other companies, or even companies that are in your stage in other sectors, or even in your sector that doing similar stuff? What would be your advice to them, to take all these steps forward and never give up?
You've got to make sure that the people who are investing in you and who are helping you have patience, um, because you're going to have up and downs. You need patience with you to be able to make it a success, and you have to look at things critically. Um, just because you've gone down a path and you think this is the easiest way and it's best to just keep pushing forward in that path, sometimes it's better to step back and say, okay, we're not seeing what we need to from here. What is the change that's needed? Because you can do more damage by just trying to continue down the same piece because you've invested so much in that, versus re-looking at it and saying, no, we've got to pivot. And if we don't pivot right now, then we're just going to waste more money, more time trying to do something that's wrong. So don't get stuck in your sunk cost. Make sure you're looking at what your decisions are critically to be able to continue to evaluate what's the best path.
Absolutely. So from that, I'll just add two notes. One of them is remarkable, what you just mentioned, and it comes actually from Einstein. Don't expect to repeat always the same thing, expecting a different result. It won't happen, right? So you went to that situation and you knew you need to change to get the proper path, which goes to another stage that I usually say. When people get into a step that it doesn't get there, is not necessarily a failure, it's part of success. So if you achieve to that stage, you just need to change that, and you know that what you just did was not the correct way to reach success. So the positive way of doing this is to tell people a failure is not actually a failure. It's a way that you know that you got there, but it was not the result that you wanted. So you know that the success goal and the path is actually other way. So the get stuck is really a brilliant point that you just said. And this is, I think, is very, and I like to empathize that because this happened many times. Do not get stuck when you see that you're not achieving result. You need to think, rethink, and see that what you're doing does not get there. You need to make some changes to get what you got. So during this pivot that you just did, Don, um, what did it made you to give that pivot, and how did you knew to get to other path?
So sometimes it's obvious to yourself. When we looked at the reactor, so when it failed, it's sort of saying, well, this isn't it. And the pivot goes into, okay, how do we get what we need to in a different manner? So it begins to say, we can't just try this again because we're probably going to run into the same issue. So we needed to step back and say, what are the keys? What are the keys to what we need to occur? So what other alternatives are there that may not have been presented to us? And so there's a factor of research, of looking into pieces, looking into saying, and then looking for things that aren't necessarily top of the pile of that are being, pushed at you. It's saying, okay, let's walk through the key pieces of what we need to have happen and what could actually accomplish that. And sort of industry norms aren't necessarily the same norms when you're doing something different.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only that, it's when it's something new. Usually, there's no norms, so you need sometimes to help them create yourself. in order to put it in place, what do you want to design? That's the other challenge step that I'm pretty sure you're faced with. So from that specific step, you find the pivot, you got into the path. How do you found yourself with you and your team to get into that road? Let's just say roadmap. I mean, was it like a common thing? You decide yourself, or was it the team? How is all decided?
Oh, it's always the team. It's always the team. We're a very team focused group, and we get better decisions with more brains thinking about them. Uh, one brain, a, one brain, most of the times gets you into confirmation bias and fallacy that you're going to head down the same path most of the times because that's your only experience. The the only way to look at something critically is to have more opinions on the table to be able to look at a piece from more different angles, and that's where you get a better decision making basis is with the team thought instead of just putting it all on one person.
Teamwork, absolutely, absolutely. It's the importance of the teamwork. It's one brain is not the same as 10 brains or 20 brains putting all the opinions and brainstorming, let's just say, in the table. So, again, another remarkable advice because sometimes this does not happen. I mean, I had some experience in the past that some companies had team, but the actual decision was from one person, so the team just go along with the person, and of course it goes on as you just mentioned. It can be a big fallback or just a bump into a door that will never open. So again, an open mind, and always have in mind your team and the opinions that coming through the table. So, about this, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
So 5 years, we're hoping to be a global brand that we've got operations in Europe, in Asia, with partnerships with different groups. But we look at ourselves in 5 years of being a global solution to a problem that's a worldwide issue.
What will be, pretending that we already that in those 5 years ahead, what will be the most approximate continent that you will target more for some specific reason?
Our first foray is probably into Europe. Europe has the infrastructure, it has the mentality already of recycling. It's the I mean, most of the world leadership pieces come from Europe when it relates to recycling, so it's a natural fit into that. And then secondary is Asia because the the amount of vehicles that are just in Asia is just overwhelming uh, to the piece. But way it's secondary is that the infrastructure is less than the than what the European infrastructure is.
Let's just talk about Asia now. Regarding the learning process of infrastructure, what will be your advice for infrastructure in this specific sector to be better prepared, let's just say?
Well, what it is, there's pieces that need um, the concept of collection, and so it's really just building your piece on how do you. We talked about circular economy. Is that right now it's only a first stage, especially in that is that manufacture and use. Well, how do we get the piece of taking end of life and moving it back into the demand? And so that's where we're sitting on, and we would piggyback on a lot of that piece. We're only a small part of that. The infrastructure has to be with how do you get the whole vehicle taken apart and the components of that into the right streams to be able recover the pieces that are precious.
Nice. So I would believe, of course, that as the mechanisms and the infrastructure regarding Asia are not well so prepared, as you just mentioned, regarding one specific stage that is need to be done. What do you advise, for example, for governments in Asia to be more open and better well prepared with their platforms and mechanisms to help in a way companies like yourself to get into market, let's just say?
Um, I'll talk a little. I'm not an expert in those, and we haven't looked
Sure.
at those markets completely, but it is setting up the 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 will to make the recycling important. So there has to be a push that says reuse is a critical piece of what we're encouraging. Um, if that isn't the if that factor isn't a dominant piece, well, then the other pieces don't spring up, and you don't need to do as much. Most of the times, industry will find the gaps, but there needs to be a push that this is important and that there is support to help the groups fill the gaps that are needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So regarding, I mean, we went through all these stages, how you want to be during the next 5 years, what will be the market, what will be right now your main advice regarding this specific recycling process to be, let's just say, in a better way before, let's just say, you get into market? Because what is the main difference for people to understand what is this sector right now and what it would be when you come in?
So right now there is limited um, recycling of the diesel catalytic converters. Um, most of the smelters aren't taking them. So with that limited market, most of them aren't being collected, and so they're just being uh, landfilled, crushed with the vehicles, and so it's a waste. And so what we're having to do is inform the market that there's a home for this type of material and get the word out there that if you recover it from a vehicle, there will be money available for you to move it up the value chain. So the biggest piece we're moving towards is we're getting our operation built out to be able to accept and process the material, but also then getting that word down to the first level recyclers that you know you want to recover these and you don't want to just crush them up as if they were just a wasted metal.
Your main difference in this case, it will be optimize all the metal in the market, as we just mentioned.
Yeah, so we're recovering platinum and palladium, and so as we're recovering that, we create a product that re-enters the commodity market.
Nice, nice. And this is, as you mentioned, is unique. Is not existing at the moment in the market, or there is a
There,
similar person.
there, we believe we're one of the few who are at commercial stage, really the only one at commercial stage. There are other ones that are in the laboratory, but like I talked about earlier, there's a big difference between being at a laboratory pilot stage to actually commercial. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of moving, there's a lot of time and energy that, and it's the hardest part is moving from that pilot to commercial. So there
Absolutely.
there are competitors, but we believe we're well in advance of the rest of the competitive market.
On top page. Very nice. So, Don, amazing. We've been talking already 50 minutes. It's been really a pleasure to hear all your history, all your experience. I think was very magnificent. for everyone to hear how you came to the stage where you are, which is a way of a remarkable journey that you just did. So to wrap it up, I would just like to ask you, what will be your power message to everyone?
So what we say is we have something new, something one of a kind, something that we are pushing to make successful, and we believe we're going to be successful. It's just a matter of time, and we will create a product that is going to be a benefit to the world, and keep finding new uses for the precious metals that right now are going to waste.
How much pollution will we reduce with your technology?
So so on a there's two paces to compare it to. One is the mining itself. Is that if you actually have to get it out of the ground itself, the comparisons is that we're 99% less water use, 99% less energy use than a mine. And on the alternative recycling is smelting. To do a ton of material, they create 1,500 kilograms of CO2, and our emissions are negligible.
Remarkable. So here we are, a technology that will definitely be a big positive impact into metal and precious metals in the market. So Don, thank you very much for sharing with us this journey. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone that will hear us will enjoy it too. Anything else that you like to add into the conversation?
No, I thank you for your interest. It's been an enjoyable discussion, and thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. So that's all for today. Don, thank you very much for being with us and sharing all your experience. Looking forward to next episode. Keep it up. Don't miss it. Thank you all. Thanks for listening. Thank you.